Alright, welcome back. I'm actually quite excited for this one. I just found this cool blurry overlay setting for a background element, and it's actually just really easy, and you can add a blur and it looks awesome. Alright, so I'll just chuck some code in here and we will test it out. Alright, we'll start off with our div wrap, which we're going to put a background on. We'll just call it class BG, so I don't have to type for too much. And then up here we'll add a .bg and we'll add our background. I just grabbed this image. I'll probably put a link to it from Pexels if you wanted to use the same background. So BG there. And then we want to set this. Actually, I've got to wrap that, don't I? The background URL with a center and a repeat in this one div. And then we want to set this background size to cover. And we want the height to be 100 view height. So it shall go the whole height of this. And then width 100%, just make sure it's fitting over the top there. And so now we have our BG. And so the next thing we want to do is then add, I did this with a different one the other day, and it was much more complicated. This one's super easy. Just get rid of my refresh as usual. So now we'll add another element within this one, which we will call our blur overlay, which I don't know why that has an extra thing in it. So that shall sit on the top here somewhere, blur overlay. And now we'll set, what are we doing? Setting blur, and we want this to be fairly padded. We want it to sit down a little bit so that we can see it on there. This is what it looks like at the moment. We're just going to put a transparent background, probably make it like pretty light. This is what our blur overlay looks like at the moment. You can see that nothing is blurred. So the magic piece of code to make the background blur is actually backdrop filter. This must be new. I have not heard of this one. And then we use a blur filter. Oh, doesn't have brackets actually. Just use a blur. Blur sounds funny. And then we just add how many pixels we want to blur it. And then a comma. And then we refresh. And it adds the blur. How awesome is that? And we'll just add some text, shadow to this text. Just add an easy shadow to the text, blur overlay. And then we can adjust the amount of blur if we want to do that as well. So a little bit less blur. And then you can see that over the top of that image. How cool is that? I'm just going to set this background to position relative. And then we can set this blur at the bottom, maybe. Position, what, relative fixed? We don't fixed, do we? Absolute, and then set it at the bottom with 100%. Just to get that to cover the whole thing, and then we can move it around. And then we just go bottom 0 pixels, and then that should sit at the bottom. So you can see now it's blurring a different section, but you can still read the text overlay on the top. How cool is that? Easy blur filter. And we can actually, you can add that to any element, and it will add a backdrop filter to it. So we want to blur the actual background. Of course that doesn't work, does it? Background URL, backdrop filter blur. Okay, fine, doesn't work. Oh, but yes, there you go. Why doesn't that work? Man, I always got to do something that doesn't work, don't I? Why is that? Because it's nearly coffee time, I think. Fine. So it only works for the backdrop filter if it's colored. It doesn't actually work for background with a URL image in it, which is fine. We don't need that. So that is our background, and then that is the foreground with a transparent color. And obviously, if you didn't have a transparent color, it's not going to blur it either. It's just going to go flat. So we do need to have a transparent background color for that to work. Actually, if you get rid of the background color, I wonder if it still blurs it. That'd be interesting. It does. It just leaves it kind of white and over the background. So that works even without a background. That's awesome. All right. That's my background testing before coffee today. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.